Nate McGallerati back here with the Cage Rage podcast, and we're live here with a recap and results for the 1FC show. March 31st, Sunday, the show went down in Tokyo, Japan, and we've got quick results here. We're also going to go over some details on 1FC and the promotion, so you know the differences in what you're seeing compared to UFC. First, let's go through the results. I'm going to cover one undercard fight, which is Garry Tonon, an absolute jiu-jitsu stud. He goes to 4-0 as he defeated Anthony Engelen, getting a knockout in round one, or a TKO rather, at the 4:12 mark. Tonon, a guy to watch just because his grappling is such an elite level. He's coming along at 4-0 under the one flag. We'll see if we ever see him stateside, but we're talking about one of the elite grapplers of the last 10 years, in the no-gi stuff and all that sort of stuff. So definitely an advanced guy that you want to keep an eye on there. And the rest of the card, let's go through it. They had 4 world title fights. This was the biggest card in 1FC history per their own advertising and stuff. Shinya Aoki at the top of the card in Tokyo. That makes sense, right? Aoki winning his world title back. He was an underdog. That surprised me. And he defeated Eduard Folayang. Folayang had beaten Aoki a few years back to take the belt. A lot of people said Aoki was done. Now at mid-30s, he's 35 now. He came back, got the Arm Triangle at the 234 mark, and took out Folayang to win his belt back. We'll see if they run that back and give us a trilogy, Aoki and Folayang there. But definitely Aoki ended the night with a bang for the Japanese fans. Further down the card, Jing defeated Angela Lee. That fight went into the 5th round at the man 37 mark. So Nanjiang going home with the title in the ladies divisions there. What's cool there, Angela Lee obviously getting into the 5th round. Definitely a compelling fight. Zhang out of China. So you're getting to see some of the depth of one's reach there as far as where they're getting talent. Further down the card, Aung Sang took out Ken Hasegawa. He knocked him out in the 2nd round, or stopped him in the 2nd round at the 4:41 mark. Aung Sang goes home with the middleweight title. The last of the title fights, this was a little bit of a disappointment. Bibiano Fernandes, another one, high-level jiu-jitsu guy, hasn't really competed in the States or in the UFC or anything like that, so people don't know about him, but he's been around for a long time. Fernandes, very high-level grappler here. He's going to go home with the belt, but his opponent, Kevin Belingon, was disqualified for illegal elbows in the 2nd round, so a little bit of a disappointment there. One made a lot of news with the debuts of Demetrious Johnson and Eddie Alvarez on this card, both former UFC champions. Obviously, you had Demetrious Johnson win his fight with Yuya Wakamatsu. He ended it in round 2 with a guillotine choke. Great fight. Wakamatsu definitely a game opponent, and Johnson just showing the depth of what, a true 100, we'll get into the weight classes here in a minute. The debut for Eddie Alvarez didn't go so well. He fought Timofey Nastyukhin. Nastyukhin, a good striker, and Nastyukhin ended Alvarez's night at the 4:05 mark of round 1. Alvarez getting stopped via TKO there. So let's go through some of what we're seeing in one that's different than in the UFC. First of all, it's a round cage. It's not an octagon, so you don't have ends or anything like that. It's a round cage. That's important, because you can't get trapped in the corner, or those ends aren't as much of a factor there. In addition to that, their weight classes, they're the same. They're 125, 135, 145, 155. But the deal with one is they've got an interesting weigh-in policy. They had a guy pass away in 2015 because of problems with the weigh-ins, and they changed it. So they do weigh-ins, and you have to enter the fight at what you're walking around at. So the bottom line is a guy like Eddie Alvarez, who walks around at 155 pounds, entered the fight 155, but he's got to fight in the 170-pound weight class, and that's what he was facing basically in Nastyukhin, a guy who didn't cut weight, and he's about 170. If he had cut weight, he would have cut to 155, but he doesn't have to, because one doesn't like the whole rehydration thing and stuff like that. It's kind of a system we'll have to look at a little bit more in detail, because there are a lot of people that endorse their system, and it prevents the drastic weight cutting that we see today. But anyway, that had an effect both with Demetrious Johnson, who fought at 135 pounds, really at bantamweight, and Eddie Alvarez, who was facing a bigger guy. The other thing you're going to notice about ONE, if you watch the fights, is the rules. They have some interesting different rules about striking, and you can knee a downed opponent. You can also kick a downed opponent in the head as long as that person is coherent and intelligently defending themselves. So if you're in a guard and, with your legs up and a guy's kicking over you, the guy can't kick you in the head, because the idea is that you should be able to get yourself into a defensive position from there. You're not prone and just taking damage. You're actually in the fight still. So it definitely makes for different action in the fight. You saw some knees to down opponents here. You saw some head kicks and kicks to down opponents and stuff. And it makes for a more exciting fight. These are adaptations of Pride's rules. So it's something that ONE is not using completely rules that they pulled out of the bag. They've been used before, some minor adaptations and stuff. But they definitely had effects on the Americans. Eddie Alvarez going over and taking a loss, fighting in basically what would amount to a welterweight fight, which for him was the wrong way to go. He could almost look at fighting at 145, And Demetrious Johnson, hey, he's a wizard, and he pulled off his win. Shinya Aoki, another wizard at the top of the card. We're bringing you results from ONE FC. Also gave you a little bit of a recap of what's different between the ONE FC brand and the UFC brand. Hopefully you become a fan, and we got another company that we can keep an eye on. I'm Miguel Arati for the CRP.